In January of 2018, I made this pallet shed for holding mainly firewood, but also some other odds and ends. And here we are in mid-November 2019. We're coming up on the 2-year mark of this being in service. I thought I would do a review, a little on the thorough side of how it's worked for us, and some notes of what I would have done differently, and that whole thing. Overall, quite happy with this structure. If you happen to be interested in a more detailed look on how I went about building this, I'm going to link here and then also in the description to a whole series of videos. I documented the process of putting this together, kind of my workflow, my thoughts on it. I didn't really have any designs when I started. It was based on the pallets that I had access to. So I'd encourage you to check out those videos if you're interested in knowing more detail. But basically, this is a structure made, driven in design by pallets, and the dominant pallet form, sorry for the wind here, are these pallets that I got from a local Advantage fitness place. It's a place that sells rowing machines and treadmills and the like, and they have these long pallets. They happen to be 7.5 feet long, which is a real boon, and that drove the basic layout of this structure. Let me look at it from another angle. Here I am on the southeast corner looking at the east side of this structure, and you can see 2 pallets laid one on top of the other, and they're in a basic way just battened together with strips of scrap wood. So a lot of this structure, the vast majority of the wood in the structure is completely free, in fact picked out of the waste stream, and some of the elements that knit and tie it together are also waste pieces of wood, and some are slightly nicer. So the spans in the front that lock the 2 pallets in the vertical plane, so that's screwed through those pallets in a number of spots, that's made out of offcuts of locust, a lot stronger, and still in total those rough cuts and the pallets brought it up to about maybe $3 to $5 in wood for this whole structure. Probably around $5 or a little more in good quality exterior grade screws. And then the roof, which I talked about in other videos, is made out of new greenhouse plastic, 6mm poly, with the hopes of that lasting a few years. That puts us up to around $40 or $50 in total on the high end for this whole structure. And in exchange for that $40 or $50, what we get are 2 pretty significant bays holding firewood. This is the western bay. The center bay I talk about in a moment. It's kind of a mess, but it is what it is. And the eastern bay. And each of these hold roughly 2.5 cord of firewood if we pack it in there really tight. And by having that clear 6mm poly on the roof, it basically creates a solar kiln effect. So lots of airflow through. Everything is on risers, so there's a clear shot of air that can run under the stack of wood, up and through it. And each bay represents roughly 1 year of firewood for our home. We heat exclusively on wood heat, and especially if we have, for example, in this bay, it's almost entirely black locust. That's some really high fuel density in this space. Having things organized where we've got 1 whole season's worth of firewood in one bay and another in another, that makes it kind of nice because you can basically provision for how much you're using and work your way through an entire season, move on to the next bay, and then I can start replenishing this with fresh wood that needs to be seasoned. So it kind of pulses those 2 sections back and forth. I like the design of that. In the future, probably would make these a little bit bigger if we could. But again, a lot of this was driven by what the pallets offered. In our case, they were 7.5 feet long. So by having 3 of these bays next to each other were 23, 24 feet long. And from the edge of where the driveway ends there and becomes garden over to just enough space to be able to squeeze through. It tightens up the driveway a little, but those 3 pallets worked out beautifully for this particular layout. I really like the idea of having designs being driven by the raw ingredients I can find rather than taking the pallets apart entirely and starting from scratch. So this was actually a pretty easy build. I think using these scrap pieces of lumber for angle bracing to take the hardwood face that locks the pallets together and brings it up and into the pallets that create the roof has made for a really strong structure. We've had some pretty significant snows on top of this. If we get over 2 feet of snow, I definitely get up on a ladder and brush that off with a broom. and being greenhouse poly, it slides off pretty easily, which is nice. But considering that the roof itself is made out of pallets, so both the rafters and the purlins are pallets with, again, scrap wood in between here or there in order to lock them together. In fact, you can see these little pallet offcut strips that span multiple pallets in order to lock them together. And again, if none of this is making sense, or if you want to see more detail, definitely watch those other videos. This is more about the review of it. But for a shallow pitch in a cold climate with a lot of snow load and not a ton of interaction as far as sweeping, I certainly wouldn't sweep unless it's over a foot. This is held up really nicely. We'll see, maybe a 4-footer will bring it to its knees, but for now it's been holding well. I wouldn't call it the most beautiful structure in the world, although conceptually I find it stunning in that for less than $50, it will hold almost 2 full years worth of the heat that we need to stay warm and comfortable, plus a space in the middle. But because it's a little raggedy looking, what I've done is on the north side of it planted out these elderberries. And now we're coming into the dead of winter. It's not as luscious, but these elders, once they leaf out in the spring, basically completely hide this more or less from the road, with the raspberries underneath and some grafted apples up above. It makes for a really nice scene. And I think in the future what we might do is figure out minor wooden extensions that can come off from the side and run wires down to the soil here, and perhaps do some vining crops that can use this structure in the summer months to hold up and maybe present some peas and beans and maybe even hold up a couple tomatoes or so. Part of me was thinking it would be nice to actually clean out the center bay before I made this video, but I think I'd rather be more realistic about what's going on. This space has become a little bit of a dumping ground. We've got projects, open-ended things, etc., that just need to get out of the snow and rain, and they get thrown in here. So it's been useful as we dump out grain for our chickens, or have leaf bags that we're collecting to be able to keep them out of the way. And I've been storing these milk crates of offcuts of hardwood that we're going to use to create biochar in our wood stove. So the space is also storing modular units that can be accessed to have the offcuts we need to make charcoal. So that's really useful, and it actually reduces our firewood by quite a bit. Sooner than later, my plan is to go through, once all the other early winter tasks settle, and get this space a little bit more organized. I meant to have this bench be an open space that I could do a little bit of woodworking, maybe do some repairs or sharpening of tools, and it should be easy enough to organize that in there. Turn these pipes that I found in a dumpster into some huge wind chimes and reclaim the central space as a little bit of a workspace. There's a lot of opportunity to evolve this simple structure even further. I've got this west wing that has a little bit of extra poly, little eave that extends over. My idea originally was to frame out a whole racking system over here so we can dry lumber and store lumber. Just haven't gotten to that, but that's always an option for later. Even if we never added any more complexity to it, the structure's really served well so far. We'll see how it holds up over the years to come, but for now, very excited. And real strong words of encouragement if you're living in an area where you have access to free pallets, and you almost certainly do wherever you live. There might be all sorts of amazing, basically free projects that you can create from those waste streams. If we can build this for under $50, I'm sure you can build some really neat things, maybe extensions for your chickens or cozier spots for your dogs to relax in the winter. As it gets colder, maybe there's even some designs for pallet structures to help the wildlife feel more comfortable. If you've made some neat structures out of pallets, we'd love to see what you're up to. Put a link in the comments to some photos or maybe a video tour of some cool structures you've made. Maybe amongst each other we can share some notes and get some inspiration for ideas. And for now, I'm gonna get inside because my fingertips are freezing. And thanks for watching this update on our $40 or $50 pallet shed that holds 2 years of firewood and a space for crap in the middle. Thanks for watching.